Welcome to Your Family's Health, the program that focuses on healthcare issues with unique and different modalities for taking charge of your health today. Experts talk weekly with our continuing roster of guests from around the country and right here in Nassau County to keep you up to date on the latest health issues and trends. Take care of your mind, body, and soul. Spend the next half hour with the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and get on the journey to better health.
We hope you're having a great day today. Hi, I'm Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard from the Department of Nursing here at Nassau Community College. Today, our guest is Sue Mathews. Sue is the president of the Taylor Mathews Foundation, a Tay-Bands organization, which is a 501c3 founded by her daughter, Taylor, who passed away from pediatric cancer at the age of 16. Sue, along with her sister, Andrea Cohane, is the author of Paint Your Hair Blue, a mother's longing to give enduring eloquence to her daughter's voice, to not let it go silent. It is an inspiring story of the power of love and determination, as well as a cautionary tale that provides support and specific advice for other parents confronting cancer and for anyone going through a cancer diagnosis or caring for someone who is. Readers will come away with the book with a vivid understanding of how truly short and precious life is and the greater willingness to add more color as we go along. What a wonderful tribute to your daughter. So tell me about your daughter and her life.
Taylor's very easy to speak about. She was a spark plug from the day she was born, and her can-do attitude is what took her through her cancer diagnosis very easily. I say very easily. I think she suffered tremendously. However, if she were here today, she would tell you she didn't. In the 5 years that she lived, she had a boyfriend. She took the SATs. She snuck out of the hospital. She had no immune system at 12 years old, so I taught her how to drive. I figured it wasn't until I wrote the book that I realized she drove for 4 years without insurance. She was truly a spark plug, and cancer became a sideline in her life. She said, you know, if I go out with my friends and I'm throwing up, my friends are throwing up from drinking. It's the same thing as if I'm throwing up from chemotherapy. She lived life.
So when was Taylor diagnosed with cancer? What age?
She was diagnosed at 11 with virtually no symptoms, and she was diagnosed with a sarcoma.
So what drove you to write this book?
There's several reasons why I wrote the book. One is to continue Taylor's legacy of helping people. She started the foundation when she was 11 years old, and her goal was to save a child's life or raise $1 million. We've done both and far surpassed her $1 million goal. So she always had a yearning to help other people. This book has several important topics that it covers. It raises awareness for pediatric cancer as well as the foundation. It's an inspiring book to tell people that cancer is not a death sentence. Enjoy your life. Don't become a victim. She never became a victim. So people read the book and they cry and they laugh at the same time. People tell me they're laughing out loud about the crazy things she did. And it also serves as a resource for parents or anyone with cancer or any chronic illness. And my main advice is advocate, advocate, advocate. Taylor had a 3-month prognosis, and we refused to believe it. And she ended up living 5 years because we searched hospital after hospital after hospital.
So did Taylor write the book or you wrote the book?
No, Taylor had no idea the book was written.
Okay.
She passed away 10 years ago, and the book took me about 3 years to write.
3 years to complete the book. And through the process of writing the book, did you find it that you were able to, was that a part of your grief work? Was it cathartic for you to write the book, to go through the process of writing it and understanding her life?
It was extremely therapeutic for me and celebrating her life.
Yes.
Many people ask me, think it's so difficult to write the book. During the funny times, I could hear her giggling right next to me, sitting in the chair right next to me. And during the sad times, I could feel her pinching me and saying, Mommy, get on with life. I don't want you to live this life that you're sad. And I want to get my word out to help other people. But it was very therapeutic.
Good. How many children are diagnosed with pediatric cancer each year? Do you know?
In the United States, 16,000. Worldwide, 300,000.
And when we talk about children, we really are talking about young children, and your daughter being how old when she passed away? 16, right?
16. They consider pediatric cancer age 0 to 19.
So what is the survival rate for children with pediatric cancer? Do you know?
Well, they say it's 80%, which is huge, and there have been tremendous advances in pediatric cancer. But the 80% is if you survive 5 years. My daughter died 4 years, 8 months. If she had lived another 4 years, she would have been in the survivor category. What people don't realize either is if you're a survivor, and there are hundreds of thousands of pediatric cancer survivors now, 2/3 of them live with chronic illness, suffer from a second malignancy, suffer from organ failure. We have to find a better way to treat these kids with less toxic treatments.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the issues that survivors face? I know that your daughter, she was diagnosed very young. What were some of the issues you, as a family, not just Taylor, but the whole family? I know it affects the whole family. What were some of the issues that arose as a survivor?
That couldn't be more true. We say when a child gets cancer, the entire family gets cancer. My children, I was a stay-at-home mom. That morning, I dropped my 3 girls at school, thought I was going for a routine exam. And that afternoon, I couldn't pick my other 2 daughters up at school, and I was fighting for Taylor's life in a world that was completely foreign to me. And my daughters now and then, I was very lucky they didn't act out, but they never had a babysitter. Suddenly, they were thrust into a world of a full-time babysitter. When I was home, I was mostly taking care of Taylor. But I was one of the lucky mothers, I think. My kids could have acted out, but they didn't. But they're left with grieving their sister. They're left with worrying about their parents. Even when a child passes, everybody asks, how's your mom and dad? They lost their sister. The siblings are completely ignored.
Yes.
And even to this day, people don't recognize their grief like they would recognize my grief. But they constantly say, my younger daughter lives with me. And every morning as she leaves, are you okay, Mommy? I'm like, sweetheart, I'm fine. If I'm in a bad mood, she thinks I have cancer.
How old were the siblings when Taylor passed away? How old were her sisters?
13 and 18. My 18-year-old was a freshman in college.
Very difficult for them.
Very difficult.
And did Taylor have to undergo chemotherapy?
She underwent chemotherapy out of the 5 years, probably 3 years, 14 surgeries, radiation. And as I say, if she were here today, she would tell you she didn't suffer, but I believe that she suffered, and that's been a big obstacle that I've had to come over. No parent wants to watch their child suffer, but I can't go back and change that.
So how do you think it differs from, I know Taylor was 16 in her teens, how do you think it differs from the pediatric population to the adult population in terms of their ability to cope as a survivor? Do you think it's a difference? And I'm sure that you did see, your husband and yourself versus your daughters. What's the difference there that you saw in the 2 age categories?
Well, chemo is not nearly as toxic for adults.
Okay.
Why it's more toxic for children is because they metabolize faster,
Mm-hmm.
so their side effects are more severe. That being said, that's a real generalization. It depends upon the type of cancer you have. Obviously, if you're an adult, you understand better. When Taylor was 11, she thought it was just, whatever, I have cancer, I'm getting all this attention, I want to help people. And I don't think she really understood that there was a chance of death. And in fact, even at 16, we were in Germany seeking alternative treatment, and she couldn't breathe anymore. The cancer had metastasized to her lungs. And she said to my husband, am I getting home next week for my girlfriend's sweet 16? I think adults are much, much more fearful than kids. And their approach to it is not as positive.
You're listening to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I am Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard, and today our special guest is Sue Mathews, and we're talking about pediatric cancer as her daughter passed away from cancer. So let's just get back in. This is a fascinating topic for those people listening in our audience today, really talking about how you cope as a result of cancer. So why did you start the Taylor Mathews Foundation? Why was that started?
Because pediatric cancer is devastatingly underfunded by the government. The National Cancer Institute allocates 4% of their total budget to all pediatric cancers, and there's many hundreds of different subtypes. So that translates to less than $200 million of research per year.
And what does the foundation do, the Taylor Mathews Foundation?
The Taylor Mathews Foundation is 100% dedicated to raising awareness and funding pediatric cancer research.
So do you have people who come to you, for example, for advice and support? Do you give those kind of support services with the foundation, or is it more monetary support?
The foundation is strictly chartered as a 501c3 for foundation money. However, on a personal basis, my husband and I, we get emails, we get calls all the time, and you can't help it. You know, it hurts your heart to see another child diagnosed. You're devastated when you get that call or email, but we help families ourselves personally. I visited many children in hospitals, gone to many doctors' meetings when the parents don't understand the medicine as well, supported other children, and I feel like I'm making a difference on a personal level, but that's 100% personal, has nothing to do with the foundation.
So this book, Paint Your Hair Blue, what does it address in the book?
It addresses resources, there's a whole section on treatment tips that I learned as a layperson by trial and error over 5 years. I wish I had Paint Your Hair Blue. The day Taylor was diagnosed, I would have learned in reading a 200-page book what I had to learn by trial and error over 5 years. But it's very inspirational to see Taylor's spunk, her fun. You go from it's sad because it goes through her journey, but it flips back and forth with her journey and how she handled her journey and how she made light of it. Mm-hmm. And the title of the name, Paint Your Hair Blue, is because I was frightened. I didn't know if she totally understood at 11 that she was going to lose her hair. I was frightened to tell her. How does a mother dare tell your child you're going to lose your hair? I was the one who was shaking and crying. She took it so well. She said, Mommy, I have 2 weeks to lose my hair. I'm going to cut it in layers. I'm going to spike it, highlight it in yellow. She told other little kids, little girls, paint your hair pink. Boys, cut it in a mohawk. Have fun with it.
Did she actually paint her hair blue?
She didn't.
Okay.
We wish we could have written in the book that she did. Blue was her favorite color. In retrospect, we should have painted her hair blue.
What hospitals did she go to?
She was treated at about 8 different hospitals across the United States and in London and in Germany.
Wow.
And that's why she survived 5 years.
So would you suggest for those parents who have a child diagnosed with cancer that they seek alternative approaches to cancer, or they go with chemotherapy, surgery, as your daughter Taylor did? Did you do both the alternative approach as well as the traditional approach to cancer?
We absolutely did both. And the alternative approach helped tremendously with side effects, and we had spoken to a consultant who gave her completely an herbal treatment.
Herbal treatments. Give me some examples of that. What kind of herbs did she use?
For her particular type of cancer, vitamin D was very important because it involved the cartilage and her bones. So vitamin D was very important. He gave her concentrated green tea pills.
Okay.
Anything boosted her immune system. We used acupuncture. Acupuncture is used for pain control, boosting your immune system, as well as for nausea. It didn't work for her for nausea, but her pain medicine after surgery, I was able to decrease her pain meds by 50% after one session of acupuncture.
By using alternative methods to do so.
Right. And the treatment that she went to Germany, where she passed away in Germany because her lungs failed, was alternative treatment with that, which was not available in the United States.
This is a great time to take a break. This is Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard, and I'm talking to Sue Mathews about her book called Paint Your Hair Blue. And we're going to take a short break. You're listening to Your Family's Health on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
New York moms and dads, tune in. Dr. Monique Collier-Nichols, a member of the NAACP New York State Conference and pediatrician, talks about the importance of vaccinating your children.
As a pediatrician here in New York, I've seen firsthand how devastating vaccine-preventable diseases can be to our children. The CDC recommends a vaccination schedule that helps protect against 14 serious diseases before the age of 2. Yet, according to the National Immunization Survey, among African American children aged 19 to 35 months nationwide, approximately 30% have not been fully vaccinated with all the CDC recommended vaccines. As parents, getting our children vaccinated with all doses at the scheduled times is one of the most important steps we can take to help protect them from serious illnesses.
Families without vaccine insurance coverage may be eligible for vaccines at reduced or no cost through the Vaccines for Children program, or VFC. Learn more at vaccinateourchildren.com. This message is sponsored by the NAACP New York State Conference in partnership with Pfizer.
90.3 WHPC.
We now return to Your Family's Health on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome back to Your Family's Health on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Today, our guest is Sue Mathews, the president of Taylor Mathews Foundation, and she's the author of Paint Your Hair Blue. Welcome back, Sue.
Thank you for having me.
So we ended off with talking about your daughter who has survived and was a survivor of cancer. And now this book is now a tribute to her life, a celebration of her life, if you will. Tell me, you talked about the siblings and how they survived cancer. Tell me about how the other parts of the family survived as she was going through the chemotherapy and all that she had to go through. Tell me about that.
You know what? Different parts of the family and different families take the news differently. In my particular family, my soulmate, the love of my life, my sister who co-authored the book with me, was there for me 100% of the time. She was living either during the 5 years in Charlotte or London and traveled to see us once a month. My older sister, who lived 20 minutes away from me and who had 3 girls, almost the same age as my 3 girls, if I saw her 5 times in 5 years, that was a lot. And if I asked her why she couldn't come to see Taylor or my other girls, she said it was too hard on her daughters, which was so difficult for Taylor and for the family. My other 2 children felt neglected. Taylor said to me 3 weeks before she died, I said to her, why are you not angry that you can't go to school? You're tied to an oxygen tank. You can't go to Sweet 16 parties. Who do you want to see? And I named off my father, all my other siblings. And she said, I don't want to see Aunt Lynn. She doesn't love me. So that was horrifying. She had had a good relationship with her before. The grandparents, it's very, very difficult for them. And it's very difficult for them when their grandchild dies because they're that much older. To see a young child when they've lived so many years. My mother was actually sick the same time that Taylor was with a different disease and passed away 10 months before. But I'm happy that she passed first, that she didn't see Taylor die. But truly it breaks up a family. People don't know how to react.
Yes, I'm sure. And now she passed away how many years ago?
10.
10 years ago. I would imagine that holidays are very difficult for the family as we are approaching holiday now.
The holidays and her birthday and the day she passed are extremely difficult days. They're triggers for anyone with any death, and whether it be cancer or not. It's that empty chair missing at the table.
Mm-hmm. Do you recommend any kind of support groups for families who are dealing with the death of a loved one that as a result of cancer? Have you yourself been engaged in any community resources or support groups for families that are dealing with the loss of a loved one?
I personally, my husband and I engaged in a bereavement group both at the hospital and at our local church because it gives you an opportunity to tell your story. It gives you opportunity to speak with other. These were bereavement groups that were specifically when people lost children to cancer. And you see, I was horrified when I went at 3 months, and a mom said her child had passed 12 years ago when she was grieving so badly. At 3 months, that was hard for me to conceive. Now that I'm out 10 years, I realize the grief continues, gets worse because she gets older, and you see how much more she's missing. You see what her sisters are doing, what her friends are doing, and you realize she lost her life. So young, she'll never get married, she'll never have children. So the grief and the sadness increases with time, but the anxiety and the ability to engage in life increases tremendously. I can get out of the hospital. I can fight for other children. I'm a true mother to my other girls, which gives me tremendous joy. I've realized that joy and grief can actually
coexist.
Yep.
Have you found a lot of people visiting your website and coming to the foundation for emotional? I know your foundation does give money for persons who are experiencing this same situation, but do you find that parents come to you for just to listen and just to be heard about what they're dealing with?
Absolutely. People reach us, and people reach us even from Europe. It's through friend of a friend, and we're there to support them 100%.
Tell us, how can we reach you? What is your website for the foundation, and or how can listening audience contact you?
The foundation is TaylorMatthewsFoundation.org, and the book is PaintYourHairBlue.com.
So the book can be found on Amazon?
On Amazon, in the stores at Barnes & Noble, and any of the online book stores. It's on the shelves and online.
So I'm understanding that there is a month that's dedicated for pediatric cancer.
September is pediatric cancer for 2 reasons. One is it's the month that kids go back to school. September's focused on children. The color is gold, the second reason, and that's because nothing is more precious than our children. You don't see me, but I have very dark hair, and I'm 58 years old, if I don't mind saying on the radio.
You don't look like it.
But I put a gold hair extension in my hair during the month of September. So I'm walking around New York City, people notice it. And I like that they notice it because it raises awareness.
You're listening to Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. And today our special guest is Sue Mathews, and we're talking about her book, Paint Your Hair Blue. And this is a book that's dedicated to her daughter's life and legacy, Taylor. So that's wonderful that month, September, is dedicated for people undergoing pediatric cancer, for those that are experiencing it or the families who have gone through it. So tell us, when you wrote this book, Paint Your Hair Blue, did the girls engage, or your daughters engage in the book as well as you? Were they able to write a part of it or become involved as well?
That is a very, very tricky question. So anywhere where they're written in the book, I emailed them the sections, even though one of my daughters lives with me. It was better for her to see it in writing, and they approved what I wrote about them. However, I cut a tremendous amount about them because they wanted no part of the book. In fact, they haven't read the book.
Wow. Okay.
And all their friends have. Their friends are well aware of it. And they say their time will come when they'll read the book.
When they can read the book.
But it brings too much back.
What would you like to leave the listening audience with if you had to just say something about your experience, your lived experience about your daughter passing from cancer? What would you leave the listening audience with?
I would leave the listening audience with hope. Never give up hope. Never show your child your fear, because most children believe mommy and daddy are going to make everything better. I think Taylor had a much more healthy, positive feeling because she knew we were going to take care of it. Mm-hmm. And live life. Don't become a victim. Her favorite saying was, life sucks, wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Live your life to the fullest. Enjoy every day. And I would say to any parent or anyone, with or without cancer or with or without a terrible disease, live life as if today is your last day.
Live life to its fullest. So what about prevention? I know this, when you say C, cancer, it means it's touched so many lives. I think everybody has had an experience, whether it's a loved one who have had cancer, been diagnosed with cancer, or family member who's been diagnosed with cancer. What would you say about prevention and treatment for the pediatric patients?
Unfortunately, there is no prevention because there's no such thing as a colonoscopy, a mammogram. Parents don't jump to the conclusion that their children have cancer. Leukemia is an easy diagnosis because generally children have a physical once a year and it shows in your blood work. But like Taylor, she just was doing intense soccer drills and was a little bit short of breath. The pediatrician diagnosed her with exercise-induced asthma. You would never think she had 100 tumors in her lungs.
So it started out with just shortness of breath when she was doing physical activity, and that's what led her to the physician and ultimately finding that she had cancer. So it wasn't something that was known, along. It came up with the symptoms, and then that's how we were able to diagnose with the cancer.
Yeah, her symptoms were actually very mild.
Okay.
I mean, she only had shortness of breath when they were doing intense soccer drills. She was skiing, she was snowboarding, she went to regular gym, no shortness of breath. But maybe that might have been because she was such a tough kid and she never complained. She probably fought through it. My pediatrician diagnosed her with exercise-induced asthma, gave her an inhaler. She went back to full sports, everything. And I said to the pediatrician, I want to take her to a specialist, to a pulmonologist, just to make sure the dosing on the inhaler was correct. And the pediatrician rolled her eyes, as she always did, and said, Mrs. Mathews, you're always overreacting. Well, we went to the pulmonologist. I left her backpack in school thinking we were leaving for an hour. They took a chest x-ray, and she was diagnosed right on the spot.
Okay. So what was thought as being something like you were told paranoia turns out that you're being proactive in terms of looking into why your daughter was experiencing what she experienced was actually the culmination of now her being diagnosed with cancer. And I guess you can remember that day that happened.
I can remember the day and the moment I looked at my watch. It was 12:19 p.m. and I knew my life would never, ever be the same. But I overreacted and took my kids to doctors because my parents never did.
So now that we have this book, this wonderful book, Paint Your Hair Blue, this book now is a tribute.
It certainly is.
This is a tribute to Taylor's life. And it is one that is dedicated to Taylor, written by you and your sister, okay, with pieces of your family in there. And so now we have a testament now to her life. What an awesome thing that you have, and what an awesome way to share Taylor's life with the world. So I want to thank you for coming and talking to me, Sue Mathews, about pediatric cancer and certainly about your daughter's life. And again, my name is Dr. Jeanine Cook-Garard. Thank you, listening audience, for tuning in to this edition of Your Family's Health.
We'd like to get your feedback on your family's health. Send your comments by emailing them to whpc@ncc.edu. Podcasts of today's show are available on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This program was produced at the studios of Nassau Community College in cooperation with the Nursing Department. Executive producer for this series is Jim Green. Join us next week for another edition of Your Family's Health on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.